Hi, my name's Debbie. I'm 24 years old and I am currently in the workup process of becoming a live kidney donor for my mum. The reason I'm doing this is that during this process I've done as much research as possible about what I'm potentially going to go through. I've looked at people's sort of online blogs and diaries they've written and YouTube videos, but I couldn't really find anything that was recent and up to date. And I wanted, if I can, to be able to give that to somebody else and share the experience, I suppose, of what I'm going through, what I will be going through in the coming weeks, and the hope that, like me, if you're out there and potentially going to be a live donor, you'll have something that you can look at, listen to, and hopefully it can put you at ease about what you're potentially going to go through. So I thought I'd just, I'd put this video blog on, and people can look through it and, get to know some more information about the process. So I suppose this started, my mum got ill about 10 years ago. She's got quite a rare kidney condition called C1q nephropathy. I didn't know about the condition until she got it, and I'd never even heard of it. Still don't know that much now. It's quite a rare condition in all fairness. Not a lot of people actually have it, and there's not a lot that's actually known about it. Basically, the protein leaks out of her kidneys and into her blood is the main element that I can see from it. But that's meant for the past 10 years she's not been very well, but it's been controlled and managed with tablets and steroids, and she's been up and down. She's had good moments and bad moments. She's had a few hospital stays during that, but lately, sort of the past 5 years, she's been quite steady. For those of you that, well, if you listen to this vlog, you'll probably know what a GFR level is. Basically, it's the level at which your kidneys work. Now, my mum started, or she's been steady at about 25 for the last 4 to 5 years. Because of her condition, she has to go for 6 monthly checkups. She went for one back in August last year, 2010, and that highlighted a drop down to about 18. So at the time they did some more tests to check out whether this was just a glitch or whether there was something actually, something was happening. And 3 weeks later, she dropped down from 18 down to 15. So there was quite a rapid decrease. That was sort of October 2010. She managed to stabilise out over Christmas, had a couple of biopsies and bits and pieces, and then at the start, earlier on this year, around April time, she dropped down again, down to 11. And again, for those who know the process, anywhere between 10 to 15 is usually the dialysis stage, where people need to go on their 3 times a week dialysis. There's different forms of dialysis. So she was told that basically it was getting quite serious. If you compare it to me, my GFR is 93, so the most anybody can be is 100. My kidneys are pretty good. She was told back in, I think it was around April time, that a transplant was going to be an option now, and it was something she was going to have to look at. Now, automatically, or from my point of view, the first thing me and some of my family members said was, right, what can we do? Can we be tested? What happens now? Up until that point, the only time I'd ever looked at or ever sort of thought or contemplated any form of organ donation was on my driver's licence, when I had to put what I'd donate. And other than being squeamish at the fact that I didn't want somebody to have my eyes, that was the only thing I'd ever known about it. But now, when you're actually going through it, when you're living it, when it's something close to you, it does make you realise how important it is. Things like organ donation. When you're dead, what can you do? What are you going to do with your organs? For the sake of ticking a simple box to become an organ donor, that's something I do definitely agree with now. And there's not enough dead donors. In fact, in the UK last year, there was actually more live kidney donors than there was dead donors. So that's telling you something. The average waiting list for a dead donor, when it comes to kidneys and livers, is usually around 3 years. And for some people, that's a hell of a long time, especially if you're on dialysis, and very ill. It's not a good amount of time to have to wait for this sort of process. So the first thing we said was, can we be tested? Now, obviously there was a few of us that went forward. There was myself, 2 of my sisters, my dad, my uncle, and my mum's cousin. Quite quickly, that was ruled down to, my dad was ruled out, my uncle was ruled out, my mum's cousin was ruled out, and one of my sisters was ruled out because she became pregnant. So it came down to me and one of my older sisters. Back in June, in fact it was June 13th, it was the day before my 24th birthday, we went for a meeting at the hospital and met with the surgeon who carries out the procedures, and he basically went through everything that would be happening, the workup process, what tests we'd have to go through. I didn't realise at this stage that's where we had to make the first decision. They'll only take forward one person at a time for the workup process. So I thought logically that, you know, if both of us are willing to go through with it, you'd test us both at the same time, and whoever came out to the better match, they'd go forward. But no, obviously the NHS resources and whatnot, they will only work at one patient or potential donor at a time. So that day, myself and my sister had to go away and make some difficult decisions. There's so many elements to look into. You know, it's health obviously is a big thing, and you know you're going to go through all these tests. They'll make sure that your body, you know, fingers crossed, as much as they can see, should be able to cope with the surgery. Major surgery you're putting yourself through when you don't actually need it. Secondly, things like, you know, you're living your own situation, you know, your living situation, your job, family life. There's so many elements that will affect this. From my point of view, you know, my sister has got 2 children. I've got no children, so for me it was always more logical that I should go forward if I can. Yeah, there's risks to the surgery, we all know that, and if something was to happen to me, I think that'd be far easier than it happening to my sister, who has then got to let her children watch her go through something. You know, I don't want my nephew seeing what I see my mum going through, because I know how hard that is. I'm 24 years of age, and it still gets to me now. I don't want, you know, 2 young boys under the age of 12 to have to see their mum going through anything that they shouldn't have to. So that was always a main factor for me, that I really wanted to push forward if I could. Obviously it came down to a lot of testing and bits and pieces, so at the time, back in June, we made the decision that I would go forward. It wasn't an easy decision, but I think overall it's the right decision. This started with basic tests and questions. The first thing was blood group. So generally speaking, as it's my mum, we should have been the same blood group, which we were, so that was fine. Once you've found out if you're the same blood group, you have your first set of blood tests or cross-match blood tests. Now, I apologise, I'm not very scientific, should I say, but when you're born, you get 3 codes from your mum and 3 codes from your dad, and they together make the 6. So basically, what they had to check was that my mum would not potentially reject or hadn't grown any antibodies against me when I was conceived, because her body, obviously 24 years ago, would have had a part of me inside of her, and it could have made some form of resistance. So they had to check A, if there was a resistance, and B, if so, how strong. If there is a resistance, they can do a lot to sort of bring it down, but they need to know, because there are some ones that they can't work with and the resistance is just too strong, and they know if they put my kidney in and there was that much resistance, it would just reject it automatically and there'd be no point doing the transplant. So that was one of the main tests initially we went through. Then, as I say, back in June, we went for the donor information session. Met with the professor. It was informative. It was good. You know, definitely, you do get quite a bit more information than, you know, just your basic leaflets that you get in your own research. So it was good to actually go and sit and see pictures of the procedure being carried out. That was, yeah, definitely a useful day. From that, it was then a case of just going ahead with your actual tests. So there's a full day of routine tests that I had to go through. So this first part of my blog as such, what I've started now, I'll detail what I've been through, what's coming up and what's happening, so that hopefully if you want to follow it you can do, and if you're looking to be a donor, or if you've got someone that's going through it, you can hopefully get some sort of empathy with where they're coming from at the minute, and see the processes yourself if you are about to go through them. I know there wasn't a lot of, say, up-to-date information that I could see out there, and this was really the main reason why I've done this, because I want to give people as much information as possible, because it is major surgery that you're about to go through, potentially. So this is part 1, and I'll see you in part 2 for some more information about the tests.